Hey guys, a couple of updates on me and the podcast. So first of all, always go check out eliotmarshall.com for all things related to what I'm doing in the podcast. Most notably on that, some DBAB t-shirts. Don't be a bitch, don't be a bully. They should be out here soon. So check. I'll have a store up on the website here within, maybe now, maybe a week or so, depending on when you're listening to this. So go check out the store to get your DBAB t-shirt. Super simple design. Hope you like it. Grab one. Secondly, I have created a Patreon page, and Patreon is a really great way to support the podcast if you like it. A lot of great producers, podcasters use it. Sam Harris, Dan Carlin. It's real simple, man. If you like it, then go support. That's it's the most holistic way. You like it. You find this podcast helpful. Show some love if you could, please. I have some levels. $1 donation per month, $5 donation per month. That will come with some jiu-jitsu video. So if you're into jiu-jitsu, then there you go. And then the $10 a month come with some jiu-jitsu video and a little motivational stuff. So that would be great to check out that. Patreon.com/thegospelofFire. And lastly, I'll be competing again soon, December the 8th at the Anna Invitational. So all of that money will go towards Justin Wren and his fight for the forgotten. So yeah, we're gonna everything we do is gonna go towards that. I'm doing a seminar hopefully at the Anna Academy the day after on December the 9th in Austin, Texas. So that's what we've got coming up. Again, that all of that money will go towards Fight for the Forgotten and Justin Wren. Well, not him personally, but his fight for the forgotten. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoy the episode, and we'll talk to you later. Hey, guys, this is Eliot Marshall, former UFC fighter, and this is the Gospel of Fire, where we're going to go through the fire to learn the best way to live our life. Here we are, Gospel of Fire, with my man David Clark. David, how are you?
I am absolutely fantastic.
Man, I just called We Are Superman. Why are We Are Superman?
Man, that's because we are Superman.
Yeah.
But you know what? It came to me after I finished my first 100-mile race. My son, who had seen my life dramatically change right before his eyes, going from 320 pounds to finishing Leadville, he said, "Dad, you turned into Superman." And I just said to him, just right back, it kind of fell out of my mouth. I was like, well, I'm not, but we can all be Superman for one day, and that's enough to change your life. And that's where the whole We Are Superman thing came from.
Oh, hell yeah, man. I like that. You're not, but for one day you can be Superman. Yeah,
and the reality is when we realize there is no actual Superman, right? No one's going to fly in and save the day when you're whatever's going on in your life, but you and me together, we can save each other and save ourselves, and so we are all Superman.
Fuck yeah. This is the message that everyone needs to listen to. That you're Superman and I'm Superman, and we can be each other's Superman, and you can be your own Superman, and you can do it.
100%, man.
Nobody's like, this is my thing, man. No one's special, right? There's no one that's special. We're all unique in our own unique ways. But man, we all can do it.
I believe that with all my heart, man. And that's why I kind of trademarked the motto for my podcast, the Make Yourself Great Again. And the reason I did that is because I think, like you just said, man, we were all born into greatness. We were all born with the ability to do anything and everything we want. And a lot of times we lose that along the way. Maybe it's a tough childhood or, parents that aren't encouraging or just bad times and convinces us, we'll never be anything. But that's your natural state. We're all great. So if we want to make great things happen, all we have to do is make ourselves great again.
And lean on some people sometimes. You get help. Like everyone, like we all like we're just so far on the spectrum, right? Like it's so crazy to me. We're either like, oh, you're a socialist, or oh, I did this all myself. Right? Like I'm a self-made man, and I don't believe in either. Look, no, you can't have everyone helping you all the time, and no, you did not do this by yourself, right? Like somebody along the way showed you something, gave you something, said something, you saw something. You didn't do it alone.
Yeah, man, we have a hard time for whatever reason accepting two truths at the same time. Like so many times two things, both things can be true, right? Like we want it to be one or the other. Either I do it all or I can't do anything and everyone needs help. And they're both true. I mean, I know that there's no one that's going to save you besides yourself. You're the only person that can create whatever it is you need to change. But once you do that, once you get that leverage on yourself, you have to get help along the way. So it's like the first thing that has to happen is you have to accept you're the cause of your problems, right? If you're not happy, you're not successful, it's you. Once you accept that, then you move forward and you're gonna have to rely on people all the way, or it's gonna be lonely and it's probably not gonna be very pleasant.
Or it's just not worth it either.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
even if you could do it, right? Why the hell would you want to do that?
Why do you want to do anything alone? We weren't made here alone, you know? Like we didn't evolve alone. We evolved with people. And we evolved doing, like, well, I've talked about this a little bit. Like, think about like caveman days, or like when the first humans came, you couldn't get separated from like the family, and the family was like everyone you lived with. It wasn't just
Right.
like the mom and the dad that you were, born to biologically. But if you got separated from the tribe, you were fucking dead, right?
Yeah,
You
man.
were
Even in
dead.
all those old pictures, like, Cain walking the earth, Kung Fu, all that shit with the drifter moving around, even the picture we have of isolation isn't really isolation because that person is constantly moving from one community to the next.
And that's not and again, that's not old people, right? Like we were way more civilized at that point. Where
Yeah.
I'm talking like no clothes, like fucking
Yeah, I know what you mean.
apocalypto style, right? Mel Gibson's
Yeah.
movie. Like if you were the one walking by yourself in the jungle, you're fucked, right?
Do you ever
You were
watch that?
panicking and had to get back to the tribe. Go ahead. Did I ever watch?
Do you ever watch that show Alone? It's on like History Channel or Discovery or something like that. It's
No.
fascinating.
What's it
They
about?
take like five people and put them all over this island. It's in like Vancouver Island in the Pacific Northwest, and they can't. They're separated by too great a distance. They can't find each other, and they all have their own camp. They all have cameras around, and it's just whoever survives the longest wins $1 million.
Oh shit.
No interaction, nothing.
Yeah, that's not for me, man.
It's crazy though to watch what happens when a human being is isolated, what they go through, and all of them tend to have some sort of because we that's the tough part, right? Because we do need to be comfortable with ourselves. We do need to be able to be alone. That's where that deep relationship with yourself comes from is meditation and a little bit of it's not really isolation because you're connecting to yourself, but it is that deep spiritual journey of self that allows us to connect with others when we're done with that. And I think those yings and yangs are pretty important because if we always have to be distracted with someone else's company, then you
Yeah.
have no relationship with yourself either.
Yeah, that your thoughts, sitting with your thoughts, right? Like that's an interesting thing, and I don't think I was just talking to one of my students last night, and she's 18 and struggling a little bit as every 18-year-old doar does, right?
Yeah.
And we were just talking, and she was asking me like, well, how do I figure out like where my weaknesses are, And she was talking just like as a person. I was like, well, meditate,
Yeah.
meditate.
What are you afraid of?
Yeah, meditate, girl. Like when it's just you and your thoughts, yeah, and it's not like something people think like something drastic happens every day when you meditate. No, very rarely do you come. Like you meditate, obviously, yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
You don't solve the world, or you don't solve your problems. And I don't know if something ever drastic came to me in one sitting of a meditation, but for some reason, like over time, my thoughts just like I just do better. They just come to you kind of like slowly.
Yeah, I think ultimately the goal, I can just speak for myself with my meditation practice, is to, like you said at first, just be able to be alone with your thoughts. And as an addict, a recovering addict, that was huge for me because that was the root of a lot of my problems with substance abuse. But just being able to be comfortable with whatever's going on in your head is one thing. But then what I really strive for is to be in the place where I'm not thinking, that it's just stillness. And I think that's the true value of meditation. Like we're so hyperly distracted in our lives now. We do we never do one thing, right? We're like when we wake up, we're taking a shower, but we're really like thinking about work. We're thinking about our emails while we're having breakfast. We're text messaging or we're watching the news. We never move from one task to the other with a break. It's all at the end of the day, you just had 16 hours of nonstop clutter in your brain. And if you think about like that from the perspective of fighting, even like if you went in there and you tried to think about everything you had to do all at the same time, why you'd be murdered, right? Like you would never be able to do anything.
Well, that's the beauty of the actual fight, right? Like,
Yeah,
you're nervous before the fight, you're scared before the fight, but in the fight, it's really beautiful because you're as present as you could ever be. Like there's no more presence than when it is that when another human being is trying to take your head off.
right. Because there's focus, right? And I think that's like what I meant about the clearing the space with meditation, like to just do one thing. If you're gonna answer emails, answer it, and then take 5 deep breaths, and then move to breakfast.
Right.
And then eat breakfast and then take 5 deep breaths and then drive to work. And you start to create these spaces between what you do so that you're not trying to do everything at once. It's like if you have a specific goal, your brain, your body, your biology, your spirit can accomplish it. If I say, I want to do this thing and I'm specific with it, I have a really good chance of getting it. But if I keep it general, if I go, I just want to have a good fight, like you can't do anything with that.
No,
right?
yeah.
But if you're like, I'm gonna move my head, I'm gonna focus on this jab, whatever it is, and you go after that one thing and allow flow and movement within that thing, then you got a much better chance of succeeding, I think.
Yeah, you have to make a list and actually like check things off. Like I was talking to my friend about this the other day in his business. You know, he's the king of making a list and then working on a little bit of each part every day, but nothing ever gets checked, right? Nothing's ever completed. And I'm like, bro, make a list. Put 5 things on your list, and then you have to finish one. Like finish one thing. And then once that's done, you can just check it off. Only work on that. You know, like you said, first I eat breakfast and then I answer my email, and then I answer my emails, or vice versa.
Yes. I think, man, that makes us feel good. Like there's just something about that
you feel accomplished. You did something.
You do. You feel as good sometimes from you're getting your work. Like this morning, I had to wake up super early and get my training in because I had a bunch of stuff going on. And I felt as good about the fact that I woke up and executed that plan. I felt as good about that as I did from the actual workout itself. It was just like, I don't want to wake up at 4 a.m. and go train, but
right. Yeah.
I'm willing to do it if I have to. And then you follow through and you're like, hey.
Because it's not easy.
No, you can always find a reason in or out of any situation. It depends on what you're looking for.
I'm thinking about making a rule number 7 for my kids. You know, we do hard stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Because, and I don't know if but then the reason I haven't done it yet is because I kind of feel like that, kind of wraps into rule number 4. If you're scared, you have to do it. Like, I'm not sure if that's not encompassed in there. So I haven't made it an official rule number 7 yet, but you feel so good when you do something hard.
Yeah. Well, because there's actually another level of that too. You do feel great, but you also create a tremendous amount of suffering in your life when you try to avoid hard things. That's actually harder than doing hard shit. It's harder to avoid doing hard shit than it is to just put your head down and do it.
Just fucking do it. DBAB, right? Don't be a bitch and go do it.
That's it, man.
My DBAB shirts are coming out, so I'm all excited.
Oh, I love it.
You know, yeah. So it's 2 ends of the spectrum. Have I explained DBAB to you yet?
No.
Nah, man. It's don't be a bitch and don't be a bully.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So it's both ends of that spectrum, you know? And and I think it's all wrapped around fear, both being a bitch and being a bully. So a bitch is someone who puts their own fears and lets them run their life. Right? Like, oh, I'm scared. I don't do that. Oh, I'm scared of that. You know, they break rule number 4. Like they do exactly the opposite of rule number 4. And then a bully is someone who's real aware of their fear and what their weaknesses are. And then they go put it on other people.
Yeah.
And that's a bully. And, so if you're being a bully, then you're definitely being a bitch, but you can be a bitch without a bully. So like a bully is way worse than a bitch.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of hard to argue with that.
Yeah. So, it's, one my students, we kind of made it up together with my students. So, but,
what's rule number one?
Oh, rule number one is you have to do jujitsu.
Oh, so I'm already out.
Well, you did it, but you're working on it, man. You're working, but these are my kids, right?
Yeah, I got you.
These are my kids. They have no broken physical ailments as you do. We've talked about. And we'll get into your story. So rule number one is you have to do jujitsu. It's a life skill, and I not just the self-defense part of it. I believe that fighting teaches you everything you need to know for your life.
I'm just rolling punches instead of rolling on the mats anymore. Man.
Yes, I agree with you. I just don't want him to get hit in the head that much.
Yeah, I
know. Rule number two is you have to swim. Another life skill. Rule number three is you have to look people in the eye, demand respect, and give respect back. Rule number four, if you're scared, you have to do it. Rule number five, you make your money work for you. You don't work for your money. And then rule number six, if my brother goes down, I go down. You got to ride or die.
Yeah, I saw you reposted Khabib's post there. I thought that was pretty classy on his part. He's a real dude.
Yeah, man. Like, whatever. Like, I'm not gonna say I like everything Khabib does. He's associated with some shitty people. Like, yada yada. Like, we're not gonna. I love how he fights. He's a fucking gamer, and goddamn, if he really sticks to that shit and says fuck you to the UFC, right? And says, look, fine, you're gonna fire my friend. I'm not fucking fighting.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
And if he does, what's going to happen is they're going to spin it like he can't get a visa. Maybe like if you see him get like a 4-year suspension from the Nevada State Athletic Commission, that's the UFC. That's not
right.
That's the UFC trying to say, oh yeah, Khabib can't fight anymore, blah blah blah. Like that's what that is. That won't be that will be like that. That will be the politics of the game.
Yeah, man. I mean, what do you expect when, there's, it seems like the whole, Bushido warrior spirit thing is getting very lost in mixed martial arts, or not mixed martial arts, but in the UFC today.
Right. Did you see the audio of, in the fight with Conor and Khabib when Khabib was talking shit to him, and then Conor was like, man, it's just business. It's only business. Like, as he's getting his ass kicked, he's like, it's only business. And Khabib's like, no, it's not, motherfucker. Whack.
It's like Doc Holliday is like, I was only funning about.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
Like, that shit sucks when it backfires on you, right?
Yeah.
Like, I hate it that they so the UFC, I didn't know this. Somebody told me this. They record the corners, the whole fight.
Oh man.
And sometimes like in the corner, you're kind of in the fight too, right? But you're not like the one getting hit. So like what you say in between to each other in like a real live fight moment when you don't think the person like we say, we're like, God damn it, why the fuck did he do that? What the fuck?
Right.
Like, Neil, come on, man, what the fuck are you doing? This is I don't want my fighter to go back and listen to that.
Oh no.
That's between like when I go to therapy and like, man, I don't want my wife to like have a fucking microphone in my therapy session. That's not fair. That helps me then go deal with my wife.
Right.
Oh man. When I found that out, I was like, that's some bullshit. Fuck them.
That is crazy.
Oh, shit. So anyway, man.
I don't want to know what my pacers and crew members are saying while they're waiting for me to come through aid stations and ultras.
Right? Because
he doesn't have a chance.
Yeah,
he looks smoked.
Yeah, but they're there for you and they're going to give your best interest. Yeah. But sometimes you got to get that negative out when that person's not there. Right? Like that's a good thing to do. And like now he gets to go back and listen to me be negative about him. Fuck you.
Yeah.
So anyway, man, let's get into your story a little bit. So you already touched on it a little bit. You were 300 pounds. How the fuck did you get to that big?
Well, it doesn't happen by accident,
And it doesn't happen overnight, right? You weren't 150 and then 300.
The best way I can describe it, man, is, and this was actually an actual thought that I had that kind of like sparked my turnaround, if you will. But I figured I wasn't a 320-pound alcoholic drug addict by accident, and that it was my thinking. It was the way I saw the world. That was the problem, and that seems so obvious, but it's not. It's not when you're lost. You think, that this is kind of happening to you instead of because of you. You know what I mean? Like, or you separate it and say, oh, I just have a problem with alcohol, or I just have a problem with food, and I need to fix that problem. And that just sends you on all kinds of wild goose chases. The problem is you. The problem is you. If you fix that problem, the other things kind of go away. But yeah, man, I grew up, in unconventional circumstances. My dad fell on some hard times, and we ended up bouncing around a lot from campgrounds and churches and living in the back of a truck. And, I just, never had any really solid kind of structure or security. So, when I hit my late teens and early 20s, I just kind of went nuts on fixing that. I got a GED and transferred to college, and got a 4.0 at the University of Colorado, Denver, and was going to go to medical school and all this kind of stuff. And I choose not to do that because a friend of mine died of cancer, which is a whole other story. But I'll try to stay on track. But I ended up at 29 years old, man. I had a company. I built a company, and I was making, $8 million a year or so. And if you would have looked at the list, if I would have created a list of things I need to be happy, I would have had everything on that list. I had money and security and respect and a good marriage and kids and houses, all that stuff. But I was still miserable. I was just absolutely miserable.
Why?
Yeah, because I thought those were all of the things I needed to be happy. I thought that what motivated me to attract all those things into my life was the idea that if I could just do that, then I would feel fulfilled, that I would feel happy. And obviously that's not true. I wasn't happy because I never learned how to be happy. I never made the connection that happiness is a choice. It's something that we radiate from inside. I like to say nowadays that, if you're searching for happiness and your eyes are open, you're not going to find it, And to me, my whole addiction and food relationship was nothing but a search for happiness with a poor sense of direction,
Right.
But it takes a long time to see that.
Fuck, man.
And a lot of pain.
A lot of pain, right? So much pain but until you learn to love it, until you learn to love the pain.
Yeah.
Right. Like for me, again, this was in my conversation with my student. It's not just a conversation with her, but it was the most recent one I had. I was like, look, you're our, because I say our because she kind of is like me, anxiety, depression, can't sleep,
Yeah.
I'm like, this is just like alcoholism. There's nothing different to this. You have to wake up and you have to say, yep, every day I have this. I am an anxiety addict. Right? Like this is who I am, like an alcoholic, like a drug addict. And you have to say, I'm going to deal with it today. And every day that you push that off, every day that you're like, oh, nope, my anxiety's not here today, I'm fine. It's like the alcoholic saying they can have a drink.
Right.
It's like the alcoholic saying that they can have a drink. And pretty well. And maybe you can have one drink, but at some point, that's going to go badly, At some point that goes badly. And that's why you have to wake up and say, yes, I am every day, yes, I am. And then you fucking debab, in my opinion. You just go through that. Like, that's literally what I do, man. Like, I do the same thing you do. I close my eyes. I wake up. I go to the bathroom. I close my eyes for 20 minutes. I close my eyes for 20 minutes, and then I say my little prayer to the universe.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, you nailed it. I mean, the foundation of my sobriety, excuse me, the foundation of my sobriety was trying to create a life so vibrant and beautiful that I would never dream of using drugs and alcohol again, and that starts with self. It's not create a life that's full of things, but creating a relationship with myself and the universe and the things around me and the people around me, and the ability to filter out all of the potentially negative things and not It's not that you're not going to feel those negative things. It's not that you're not going to be, bombarded with that, but I'm not going to feed it my energy.
Yeah, everyone thinks that stuff goes away, right? They're like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
no.
when's the bad gonna stop going? Or when's it gonna go away? When's my anxiety gonna go away? My depression? Why I use drugs? What makes me use drugs and alcohol? Why is that?" And in like in your case, eat yourself to death too. Like those things will stop, right? No, man, no.
Well, the thing is, the things that cause us to feel that way, those aren't going to stop. But we
Right.
can change our reaction to those things, right? Like we can control that. Like nothing, no one can offend me. No one can frustrate me. No one can make me angry or sad or happy. I have to do that myself. You know, and so when something happens, whatever it is, if I react in a certain way, I don't punish myself for the reaction, but I make the correction.
Right.
Like why this isn't happening to me. This is just happening. And what I choose to let that mean is ultimately going to affect how I live my life.
Let's touch on that a little bit. How you said no one can offend you. That doesn't mean you don't get offended. It happens to you, correct?
No,
frustrated.
I really don't get offended anymore, man.
Okay, maybe that's the wrong.
challenge you.
But we get frustrated, right? We get frustrated, but that's on you. That's not something else.
Well, what happens when we get frustrated is typically we have an expectation, or we've placed an expectation or attachment on what someone else is quote unquote supposed to do, or how things are supposed to happen, and it doesn't match up, and we get frustrated.
Right. So I just wanted to. I'm sure I offended is hard to do to me as well. I would agree. Yeah. But frustrated happens to me, and I try and it's exactly what you said. So I didn't want people to think that like, oh, this guy just doesn't like those feelings go away from him. No. It happens, right? Like I get frustrated, but then So
I can count the times that I've been frustrated over the last 5 years on one hand.
Oh, damn, you're doing better than me.
And it wasn't always that way. That's a work. That's a
right.
That's a lot of work. That's like a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Sure. You know what I mean? Yeah.
That's a lot of fucking work, because what you have to do is you go through a practice in life. That's every time you feel frustration, you sit with it. Like you said, you got to feel your pain. Yes. And the Buddha said you have to hold your pain like a child. So I'd have to go, why am I frustrated? What's going on? And work through that. Go, oh, well, this person did this or this happened. And really at the root of that frustration was me. It was my expectation, my attachment to someone else. So when I see someone, say, behaving in a way that maybe I wouldn't, or that I don't think is the right way for me, I can at least look at that and separate it now and think, how many times have I been that person, behaving in that way, reacting that way in my life? Too many to count. I'm a fucked up old addict. I've fucked people over. I've lied. I've done terrible shit. So it's so easy for me to now see that someone else having a bad day, reacting in a certain way, living their life the way they're doing, I can't judge that, man. I can't judge it. And when I try to, all I do is fucking frustrate myself. Right. So why do that? Like, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I've had to, I've had to like do some things with my life. I agree with what you're saying. Like, I try not to get into too many discussions and arguments anymore. Like I'm trying, because then it comes back to me, and all of my flaws that I have start to really come out.
What are you arguing for? What's happening when you're arguing?
Yeah, no. So I have a group of friends, and it's my buddy Scott. He's going to listen to this the day it comes out. We used to do
Scott?
We used to do a podcast together, and it was cool. The Saint and the Sinner. And we argued and discussed.
Which one were you?
We both were.
Okay.
He's a pastor. He was the pastor of Flatirons Church.
Okay.
And he's recently moved to Kentucky. So we have a group of us, and they're all very.
What bet did he lose?
Yeah, I know he's from Kentucky, so that motherfucker likes it. I don't know how you like that shit, Scott. I'm talking shit on my podcast about you to somebody that you don't even know, but anyway. And so we discuss religion a lot, and sometimes when I start reading and listening and really like getting into particular any religion, or belief system, it puts me in a mind state that I start like going down a negative route. Like I have to be right. And when I do that, it's just not good for me, you know?
Yeah,
And
well, you've isolated, you know
yeah,
what the problem is.
theirs is Christianity, but I could do it with any of them, you know?
Yeah.
And, so
But then you realize that there's actually no such thing as right.
right. Yes. No, there's no such thing as right. There's the narrative that goes on in each individual's head. So, and you know, this is where I start to disagree with them, and then we start to go down a bad path, and then, well, they don't, I do. And so I know that for me, I have to stop. That's something that I've just come to recently, actually. I had Vinny on my podcast, and he's one of the people on that thread, and he just asked me a simple question. And I was like, yeah, I hate to say this to you guys, but I can't do this anymore. Like, I know we like this, and you know, I was like, we can talk about everything else, but I can't go this route, because this is not good for me, and it's not your fault. You know, it's not their fault at all, but it's all on me, you know? So, rather, you know, and that just always, like you said, when you find your fault in it, like, you know, when you own it, it just makes everything so much easier. Like, you don't have to, like, because nobody else can do anything to you.
Well, that's the beauty, man, of rock bottom and redemption in my own life, is that I spent so much of my life being professionally wrong about everything. You know what I mean? Like, I was wrong. I had a picture of the way the world worked and who people were at the root, and, you know, that everyone had an angle, and that everybody was out to get you. And that I just had a picture of the way the world worked. And that was just all my shit that I was projecting on everybody else. And when I woke up and in that thought crashed down, I mean, I'd lost all my money. I'd lost everything that I'd worked for. I'd lost everything. When that thought crashed down on me, it's like, man, you're just wrong. People know something about life that you don't know, and you think you're the smartest fucking person in the room, but you're sitting here at 320 pounds, drunk as shit, with a pocket full of painkillers that you've been taking every night, hoping you just don't wake up. So it's really easy for me to now in my life approach, because I had to go on a long journey. You know, I didn't get there overnight, you know, through 13 years of sobriety now, that I can approach a situation that says, man, I know that it is really, really possible, and maybe even likely, that I just don't understand what's going on here. You know, that there's some level that I'm just not seeing. And so I can leave my ideas. I have strong ideas, you know, about politics and religion and philosophy and life, but I can check those and go, okay, can I learn something here? And I'm not afraid that someone's going to, you know, knock my ideas down, because that's kind of what I want. I want to see where I'm wrong. So I can just listen to someone, whether they're a Democrat or Republican or whatever, say what they're saying, not take any of it personal. And then at the end of the day, I go, is there truth in that? Yeah, if there's some here. Does it change the way I feel? No, it did. Or yes, it did, you know, whatever. And then sit. And that's beautiful, because I used to fucking argue politics all the time, screaming and yelling and stuff. And now I can sit down with someone who has totally different views of me and have a good conversation. And even if one of us gets frustrated, it's not going to be me, you know?
Right. You know, and that's just being good with yourself, right?
Yeah.
That's just a lot of work. That's
Lots
years
of work.
and years in work. Like,
Yes.
I'm at 3 years of the work. So, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not at 13 yet. I'm excited to see what 13 will look like.
It's like you said, man, it's levels. And I mean, I'm not perfect. I'm no fucking Dalai Lama or anything like that, obviously. But, you know, I think that I cleaned my life up, and I got sober, and, you know, I redeemed myself in some ways. But then, you know, even 5 years into the journey, you know, I screwed up, and my marriage ended. And then as all of a sudden, it's like, man, now I don't even have the comfort of being an addict to blame my bad shit on. You know, like, now I got to sit here and go, man, you're supposed to be the recovery guy. You're supposed to be the spiritual guy, and you still got stuff. And that was really dealing with that, my divorce, and that year or two after that, that's really when the big growth came for me. And that's
that must have been a motherfucker, right? Because
before, dude.
Like, if you would have gotten divorced during your addiction, that would have made perfect sense.
Total sense.
Right? Like, she left you, what, you know, and I have no clue why you got divorced, but let's just assume, like, you know, what it was like, you know, just went separate ways. And like, that would have just been like, whatever would have happened during your addict days, that would, I mean, no matter what you did, you could have been like, I was a fucking addict. Of course I got divorced.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that was a test, huh? That was a
It was
test.
a big test, man.
Yeah,
It was a big test. And I
Yeah.
jumped right into another relationship, and that one was really volatile and unhealthy. And so it was a 2 year period of spiraling from what I thought was, a place of, of growth. I thought I'd grown a lot, and I had, but I wasn't where I thought I was,
Did you
and
start drinking again and drugs?
no,
No.
no.
Okay.
That's the beautiful part, is that ultimately, man, it's like what Mike Tyson say, everyone has a plan to get punched in the face.
Yeah.
And getting punched in the face like that made me see what my real priorities were. It's like, oh, don't drink, don't use, try to be a good person.
That
And it's
man,
like
so that's why rule number one for me is fight is you got to do jujitsu, right? Because
Yeah.
everyone's got a plan until they get until it goes bad.
Yeah,
Right?
but it's amazing when it goes bad, like how much you rely back on those fundamentals, right?
Mhm.
Like I was right there at day one again. It's like, what? Okay, I'm an imperfect human being trying to get better, and as long as I don't drink, I'm going to be okay. And going back to ground zero wasn't a step backwards. It was actually a launching pad for me breaking apart and realizing that I have no control down here. Because I felt that, like you said. So I wrote the picture in my head, right? I was like, okay, here's the story. I got it. It's perfect. Kid loses his way, has tough childhood, makes millions of dollars, loses his way, becomes an addict, boom, rises from the ashes, becomes an ultra marathon runner, lives happily ever after. I got this, wired, done. And then all of a sudden it's like, guy gets divorced. What the fuck is that? And now I'm mourning.
Sure, aren't you supposed to be like awakened now? How do you get divorced?
Right.
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 You're supposed to be this awakened soul that like doesn't fuck up, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like that was the projection, right? What I learned from that was that, I wasn't present in my life anymore. I was living this other thing, and then when it didn't happen, and shit happens, man. Like, people get divorced, right? It happens. Things happen in life, and when it did happen, it wasn't even the ending of it that was so bad. That was terrible. That was terrible. But the real tough part was thinking that what I did was screwed up the next 50 years of my life, right? I was mourning the loss of a future that not only hadn't it happened yet, but it was never going to happen. Yeah. And that gap there is what hurt so bad. And that's when I had to think, you have no control past today. You have no control. You need to focus back on making this day great and not worrying about that other stuff.
All we have is now. We got nothing other than now, It's
hopefully a bunch of now.
Yeah, hopefully, but that's you thinking about your future now is just a thought right now.
Yeah.
Like, it's nothing more than that.
You don't even really have a past, because every time you think of the past, you're thinking of a memory of the past.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah, no. Literally, you have now. The thinking of the past is a thought right now. And
that's really what consciousness and reality is, right? It's a never ending now. That's all it is.
It's fighting, man. It's just fighting. If you're thinking about the jab you just got hit with, that right hand is fucking coming. And you're fucked. You're fucked.
And you have no control when and where that guy's going to throw that jab either. Better move your fucking head.
My first striking coach, Dwayne, Dwayne Ludwig was my first striking coach. And we used to, everyone, when they first start getting punched in the face, they close their eyes, right? Because it's coming. And he goes, hey, man, why don't you keep your eyes open? Because it fucking hurts the same whether your eyes are open or closed when it hits you. And the only chance of you missing it is if your eyes are open.
Do you ever hear about how buffaloes behave when a storm comes?
No, what do they do?
This is one of the coolest stories I heard, man. And this is real, man. When the buffaloes are on the prairie, they're on the plains, and they're just, milling around, and a storm cart starts coming in, they will stop, look at the storm, and charge into it. And they do that because they know if they just wait, the storm's going to move over them slowly. And if they run through it, they'll get to the other side, and where the weather's better.
Fuck yeah.
And they instinctively know to just run into the storm.
Go do hard shit.
Yeah. Just if I avoid it, if I try to run away from it, it's going to catch me, and then it's going to stay over me for a much longer period of time. But if I
Yeah.
run through it, I'll find the ass end of it.
Yeah.
I'll be
Just go
happy.
do hard shit, man.
That's it, man.
Like fuck. And sometimes people get a little crazy with this. Like, look, I'm on vacation right now. I'm
Sure.
not doing any hard shit. Right. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I wouldn't say nothing, but like, I wake up, go to the beach, or like my hardest decision is, am I going to the beach or the pool for this 2 weeks, and what am I going to have for dinner? And
Yeah.
and we all know when you have a wife, right? Like that can be a fucking hard decision, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's for dinner? Fuck, come on, baby, just choose something, you know?
Don't tell me you don't care what we eat if
Yeah.
you care what we eat.
No, you care. You care. You fucking care. You know? um, so,
But, it's
but
beautiful, man. I mean,
we can have relaxation time. That's okay. Like everyone's like, oh,
yeah.
every day I got to grind and grind and grind. No, man, come on.
You can make a prison out of anything. I mean, you got to find the love in what you do. And, you can't make everything an epic battle, right? I think, do you ever read Peaceful Warrior, man, by Dan Millman?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God, you got to read that book.
Tell me
man.
right now.
Yeah, Dan Millman,
Okay.
Peaceful Warrior. It's based on a true story of a gymnast.
Is it on Audible?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Peaceful Warrior.
Yes. Peaceful Warrior. There's a part where this guy's, guru teacher tells him, the warrior doesn't look for the pain. He's just ready when it comes, and because you can get into that mindset where you're looking for the pain, and you don't want to be there. There's no growth there. There's no happiness there.
Well, you're for sure not present, right?
Yeah, no, you're looking for it. You're trying to pick
you're
a fight.
searching. Yeah, you're searching.
You beat up one bully and move into the next neighborhood, beat up that bully, and then all of a sudden you're the bully.
You're the bully. Exactly. You're searching. See, you can't get away from DBAB, can you?
You can't, man.
You can't get away from DBAB.
You inserted it in my brain.
Yeah, man. You can't get away from it. It's I don't know. Like I don't know how I got to it, but yeah, it's something that I can never get away from. So I'm like, all right, like they're like my. I don't know. I don't have 10 yet, but I've got some commandments. And DBAB is one of them.
All truth exists already inside of us. It's just unlocking it.
Yeah.
No one has original truth or wisdom. I believe that.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let me ask you a question, because a lot of people, like, it's on the religious end of things, but like, you said how bad you were, and how you did such bad things. And how do you forgive yourself for that?
Yeah, it's a good question, man. I mean, that is the process of recovery, right? So the first thing you have to do is confront it, man. Just like we said, run into the storm. Stop trying to hide from it, man. The Buddha said, feel your pain like a child, like we talked about. So you have to sit in all that pain you've been avoiding for your whole life, the whole mess of everything you've done. And I wrote it out, man. I sat for days and tried to think of every stupid bad thing I'd done, from, not giving the right change back to somebody when I knew they'd give me, you know what I mean? Like anything I could think of, obviously the big things, but even all the little things. And you're never going to get them all. But if you can, scrape out enough of that stuff, and then you look at it and you look at the enormity, and this is a tremendous spiritual journey for anyone to go on, whether you're an addict or an alcoholic or, whatever. And then you own it, you look at it and you're like, this is okay, because I'm a human being, but I've now confronted it. And where are there places that I can, make amends, or give love out in those directions, and just tell someone maybe, I redid this after my divorce. I've done it many times. And just going back to my ex-wife and saying, hey, I'm sorry for this and this and this and this. And, that makes you feel free. You've confronted the split, the terrible gnawing feeling of being lost that humans have is because we're hiding from things. And when you confront all those things fearlessly, the demons are always scarier in the dark when you can't see them, And when you confront them, you take away their power. So that's kind of the way you become, you start to be able to forgive yourself. And then a beautiful thing happens. When you work on that enough, not only do you forgive yourself for the terrible shit you did, but now you realize that all of that bad stuff, all those scars, all that pain is a means of relating to other people.
You start to forgive them.
And and I can forgive instantly someone who's yelling at me at a stoplight, you know what I mean? Or someone who's, cutting in front of me, or I lost my business last year because my rent got doubled, and then Lifetime opened up a $35 million business across from me. And, I I didn't carry any resentment or anything to anybody about that. I just knew, as like kind of exciting to me. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. So this chapter's ending. What's next?
Right. Right.
It's like I don't have any control here. So I thought this is the way it's going to go, but okay, it's different and it's great. Turned out great. It's what I needed. Of course, it's what I needed. I've just finished my second book, got other things going. Life's good, but that's the process. And when you make that connection with yourself, when you've forgiven yourself for those things, and then you can share them fearlessly with strangers at an airport. Like I have no secrets. You want to know what peace feels like, what freedom feels like? Walk around with no fucking secrets, no past, no behavior, nothing that you've done or you're doing that you're not afraid to share, even if it's embarrassing.
Scream your weakness to the world.
That's freedom, man.
Yeah, man. Scream your weakness to the world. It's so nice, right? I can't. It's one of the nicest feelings I've ever had the pleasure of feeling. Like better than sex, better than winning a fight, right? Yeah. Like all of that, because there's nothing that anybody can hold on me. Right? Yes. Like, okay, yes, I am a flawed individual. I fuck up, and I will truly apologize for that.
Absolutely. And that's to go back to that, like small frustrations of life or arguing politics or religion or whatever. That's why someone can say something to me. It's like, oh, I think you just think that way because of this. And I'll go, man, you might be right.
Yeah, yes.
I'm not afraid to say that.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm like, I have to think about that, man. That's a good point. It's very disarming for people,
because they want to start hammering their point more, right? And you're like, okay, you might be right. And they're like, wait a minute, you're not supposed to give into that.
Yeah, concede an obvious truth, right? Yeah, like, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that's something that, man?
Oh, you mean I have a black dad and a Jewish mom whose parents survived the concentration camps, and I might think a certain way because of that? Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, of course,
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's nothing more stupid than sitting there and telling someone that you're not biased. Like I am not in any way shaped by the experiences of my life. Fuck off.
Yeah, fuck you. Exactly. Who
I am.
Who are you? Because I've never met anybody.
To worship you, Jesus. Thank you for coming back.
So back on the forgiving thing, because that's where a lot of people do turn to the traditional religions, right? So that that God can forgive them, and I've always wondered this, not wondered this. I know why. That's why, because they feel so terrible. But you kind of did it, excuse me, without asking for forgiveness and to God or did you? I don't know. Did you do that or?
Yeah, I became accountable to the universe for my behavior. I believe in karma. Okay. You know what I mean? So, but I can't legislate or turn over the responsibility of my forgiveness and my redemption to someone else, right? Just like I can't vote to make the world a better place. I can vote in that direction, but if I'm not out helping people and doing shit, then I've got nothing. I got mental jewelry. You know what I mean? And so if I just pray and say, forgive me for my sins, but I'm not doing the work, I'm not confronting those things directly, all I'm doing is seeking permission to avoid those things that I'm afraid of, Right. So I think you need both. I think you need to be responsible to a power greater than yourself. If you think you're the biggest power in this universe, and you're insane. You're insane. It doesn't have to be Allah or Jesus or the Buddha or anything like that. But you have to just admit you're small, right? And admitting that, there's power in that. There's power in that surrender. That's not an act of weakness.
Yeah, man. It's so interesting that people find they just find these hard lines, right? Like of it has to be this way, and the no, it doesn't. It doesn't have to be that way. I'm really glad that your way works for you. Are you hurting anybody? Because if you're hurting somebody in your way of your acts, then you suck.
And are you happy?
And then after that, then man, I'm glad it works for you. So,
would you take financial advice from someone who is broke? No. Why would you take spiritual advice from someone who's frustrated and unhappy and lost?
Yeah, it's a great question.
I don't know.
How long do you have?
I'm cool, man.
No, I'm
I
just
got
saying, how
time.
long do you have to answer that question? Like,
All right.
like the spiritual
I'm still,
advice.
the answer still applies.
Yeah. So how did you get into running, man? How did you get into the ultra marathons and all that stuff?
It seemed stupid and I needed something stupid. No, there's kind of some truth to that, man. Running seemed like a superpower to me. And I'm not even joking, man. Like if someone who could go run 3 or 4 miles around the block, that seemed like a superpower. I couldn't do that. I couldn't run more than 10 or 15 seconds. So at first it was the simplicity and the utility of running. It was this thing that I could do every day, almost as an affirmation to prove to myself that I was serious about changing my life. I could just go to the gym, get on the treadmill, and run 15 seconds and then walk for 45 seconds and then run for 15 seconds and walk for 40 seconds and do that for 20 minutes. And, because running seemed so impossible, the fact that I could find the place in my head to force myself to do it was huge. I was establishing a new pattern, because I didn't do anything that I did the things that I wanted to do. If those things happened to be uncomfortable and risky, like building business, stuff like that, sure, I'd do that if I wanted to do it. But I wouldn't do anything, that I didn't want to do. I didn't know how, I didn't have that relationship established. So running gave me that. And it was really like, I gotta heal myself. I'm broken. I'm spiritually broken. I'm physically broken. I need to start eating better. I need to start taking care of my body, and I need to start addressing some of the spiritual crisis that I have. Why am I so lost? All those things. So it was almost like I wasn't at the place where I would even accept the possibility of ever meditating.
Right.
So running kind of became my meditation.
Sometimes that physical start is where that physical hard stuff is where is really what helps you get into that place.
Yeah.
It's again for why rule number one for like what I've realized again with the jiu-jitsu thing is I like to talk to my students after and the talks that I give, like when we're sitting down after we train hard,
Yeah.
like when we all train hard for that hour, and then we sit down as a group, like just everybody sitting on the mat, like nobody standing, nobody up front, nobody anywhere, like that raw talk that I give after, like my heart rate has been elevated after someone's been trying to kick my ass, like, and like that's over. Like I'm much more real. I'm much more,
Yeah.
and I'm much more able to listen to people, what they have to say. It's really amazing what happens with that physical exercise that opens up the mental place for us to absorb some information.
It does, man. It focuses everything down. I mean, you can be driving down the road going, you know what, I really need to volunteer more time. I need to give back to the community. I need to, go work with the homeless or this. And, you're trying to develop this relationship and mechanism with yourself to do the things that you think there's value in, right? But there's no intensity. You get on a treadmill or on the jiu-jitsu mat saying, I have to do this for 20 minutes, and your body starts hurting and your emotions raise up and fear comes up and pain comes up. You're going to have to develop that relationship with yourself on how to do the things you don't want to do very quickly.
Yeah, that fight or flight starts to take over,
Yeah.
right? Like even the treadmill, right? Even for for you, a
Yes.
300-pound guy on the treadmill, like you're wondering if you're going to die. Like,
And there's shame too, man. You're like you're aware when you weigh that much, and you're on that damn treadmill wearing, size 50 Shaquille O'Neal basketball shorts,
Yeah,
and a big cotton t-shirt, and you're sweating from the time you step on it. And there's, all these Boulder County athletes around running, they're not looking at me, but I still felt self-conscious, and I had to deal with that too.
for sure, man. Well, shit, man, this has been great. You got a book coming out. What's the old book? What's the new book?
The old book is Out There, A Story of Ultra Recovery. And it is really the journey of how I got lost and how I redefined myself and ran a 100-mile foot race. That's really that story, the mental change. It's all about the spiritual aspect of it. There's running in it, but it's not about running. There's weight loss in it. It's not about weight loss.
Right.
But it's about a spiritual journey. And then the new one that'll be coming out probably in December, January is called Broken Open. And not surprisingly, it's that story of what happened in the aftermath.
Right.
how did I manage to get to where I am now?
Awesome, man. How about your podcast? What's your podcast?
It's the We Are Superman podcast. Make yourself great again. It's on iTunes and Stitcher, and you can find it at wearesuperman.com too.
Sounds great. And We Are Superman on Instagram?
All social media, We Are Superman.
All right, man. David, thanks for coming on the podcast, man.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, man.
All right, guys, I appreciate you listening. Don't forget to check me out. Go to my website, eliotmarshall.com. Sign up. My Patreon page, and everywhere else, Fire Marshall 205 on all social media. All right, guys. Talk to you later. Thanks, David. All right, guys, thanks for listening to this episode of The Gospel of Fire. Check me out on my website, eliotmarshall.com, where you can stay up to date on everything that is Gospel of Fire, Eliot Marshall related, get DBAB t-shirts and whatnot. Also, my Patreon page, if you're liking the podcast and would like to support it, patreon.com/The Gospel of Fire. I'd much appreciate it. And my social media, as always, at Fire Marshall 205 on Instagram and Twitter, Eliot Marshall on Facebook, and Eliot Fire Marshall for a Facebook fan page. I appreciate everything, and remember, guys, the impediment of action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Let's do hard shit.